Yes, you know, context matters. Information is not knowledge, and too much information can be overload.
Yeah.
And in the information age, which is how we can describe this today, we're not, and I think everybody can agree, hopefully, that we're not short of information. There's 500 billion different television channels and radio stations and internet websites and podcasts, and we can do um, we can access almost anything about anything, but is it useful? And and that's a great question to ask as an educator, because I don't think it has an answer. It's just a personal perspective. I don't think it has an answer. I don't think anyone can say for sure this is going to be useful or this is going to be more useful than that. I don't, on a personal level, I can talk about my personal experience and what for me was more useful than something else. But I think it would be a mistake for me to transfer that to another person and say that their experience is going to be the same as my experience. Um, where, which is the problem with methodology. Methodology um, requires the disintegration of the individual in order for it to work, because it's a one-way system. And uh, for teachers, I think, to be effective, they have to very often be rebellious in their approach to methodology. Not say that methodology is bad, because if there's a method to make a cake and it makes a very nice cake and it works all the time, then you would be silly not to use that method. But that method is not the only way to make the cake. And everyone in the kitchen is going to do something a little bit different. And so teachers, in essence, have to work with methodology, but in essence also be rebellious in understanding that method itself is decontextualized a lot of the time. And very often in conflict with an education that goes beyond the physical into what I would call the metaphysical realm, and certain elements of human behavior go go beyond the practical and logical. Trust and emotional dependency, for example, which affect the way that people behave, often transcend that. Um, but it's really interesting to see how a topic can be really interesting, and yet how to apply it is very often the problem for everything at the end of the day. Isn't that a base problem of all education? It's like, I went to school for 15 years, but I don't know how to apply that 15 years that I learned in here out there, because now I have to go and look for a job. And the process of job hunting, I like that term, job hunting. It's what it's like, like you're in the forest with a bow and arrow, looking for your food, right? Um, Job hunting is very different from sitting at home having your parents prepare you a meal, right? Uh, it's a very, very different experience in the world, and people have to find various unusual methods and ways to navigate through that environment. Um, so that was the abstract topics, and the other thing that you said was interesting. That was interesting was that you have to decide what actually is interesting and useful in the process of education, because you yourself have to filter the information. Yeah, because all educators work as filters naturally. There's you've got bookshelves behind you, right? So there's a billion books written by a billion people who have a billion ideas, about what is the right way to do everything.
Mm.
And and everybody thinks they're right because everybody's got their own experience. And somehow the educators have to filter that into a manageable, contextual, methodological system that is practical and applicable. Because that's the fundamental role of the educator, really. And a role that they don't get any respect for and very little help with, because it's all based on you and what you've studied and what you've done and what you've learned and what you can share. So it's really hard. Well, also if sometimes it comes naturally to people as well. It's like ask a footballer how they kick the football. It's like, oh, I just kick the ball. You give me the ball and I work with the ball as I know best from my experience. So a lot of things in life are just the flow of everything that happens, the flow of the processes, and also just as a little final point, and the time pressure.
Mm.